Brand new homes are supposed to be easy to sell, but across America, finished new homes are piling up, while builders are using incentives to move them. That's the national picture. This video is about where that pressure lands in Illinois. Because suburb after suburb, new communities are opening while buyers are becoming more cautious. Fresh homes, empty driveways, model stages. We found the 15 Illinois suburbs where the pressure runs deepest. If you own near new construction, this explains your comps. If you're buying, this is where builders may give you leverage. So let's see what we got. There is probably no better place to start this Illinois countdown than Joliet. Over the last few decades, it has transformed from an old industrial city into a major southwest Chicago growth area. The reason is simple: Interstate 55, Interstate 80, major freight infrastructure, and plenty of land for new development. For families priced out of areas closer to Chicago, this market offered more space, newer homes, and better value. And builders responded. New subdivisions spread across the area, but the affordability equation has changed. Today's buyers are dealing with higher monthly payments, property taxes, insurance, and other ownership costs. And that's where new construction creates pressure. Builders aren't just competing with each other, they're competing with existing homeowners, and they have an advantage: incentives, rate buy-downs, closing cost assistance, upgrades, and other deals can make a brand new home more attractive. Imagine finding a 3-year-old house for $400,000, then seeing a brand new home nearby for roughly the same price with builder incentives. Which one would you choose? That's the pressure resale homeowners face. It doesn't always mean prices crash. Sometimes homes simply sit longer, sellers cut prices, and buyers negotiate harder. The city still has major advantages: transportation, jobs, logistics, and proximity to Chicago. But the real question is whether enough buyers can afford these homes at today's prices. And if new construction keeps growing while the buyer pool gets smaller, somebody eventually has to blink. And that brings us to number 14. Now, coming in at number 14 is Plainfield. It became one of the biggest suburban growth stories around Chicago. Families came here for more house, bigger yards, newer neighborhoods, and lower prices than closer in areas. Builders saw the demand and started developing large communities with new streets, schools, parks, and thousands of homes. But the affordability equation has changed. Higher interest rates, property taxes, insurance, and monthly payments are making buyers much more careful. And when buyers have more choices, sellers lose leverage. That's where builders have an advantage. They can offer lower mortgage rates, closing cost assistance, upgrades, and other incentives without cutting the advertised price. Now imagine finding a 3-year-old home for $400,000, then seeing a brand new one nearby for roughly the same price with builder incentives. Which one would you choose? That's the pressure facing resale homeowners. It doesn't always mean prices crash. Sometimes homes simply sit longer, sellers reduce prices, and buyers negotiate harder. Meanwhile, new developments keep appearing with fresh streets, model homes, flags, and construction crews. It looks like a booming market, but the real question is simple. How many of those finished homes actually have buyers? Because if construction keeps growing while demand slows, inventory builds and buyers gain leverage. The community still has strong infrastructure, a growing economy, and plenty of family demand. But the economics of buying a brand new home are getting tougher. And that brings us to number 13. Coming in at number 13 is Romeoville. It's close enough to Chicago to benefit from the metro economy, but far enough out to give developers plenty of room to build. And that's exactly what builders love: space, transportation, and access to a huge pool of buyers. Over the years, the area has developed a mix of established neighborhoods, apartments, townhomes, industrial areas, and newer construction. But that room for growth can become a problem when the market slows down. Builders can't simply stop once land, roads, utilities, and homes are already under development. So when buyers become cautious, incentives start appearing. lower mortgage rates, closing cost assistance, upgrades, and other deals to move finished homes. That's where builders gain an advantage over homeowners selling 5-year-old properties nearby. The new house is newer, customizable, heavily marketed, and comes with incentives. The resale homeowner usually has one option: lower the price, and once one seller cuts, nearby sellers may have to react. That's how comparable values can start moving lower. But there's another issue buyers are watching: the commute. A cheaper home farther from Chicago isn't always cheaper when you add fuel, vehicle costs, and hours spent on the road. So when monthly payments rise, buyers start asking whether the extra distance is still worth the savings. This isn't necessarily a weak housing market. It's a market that's highly sensitive to affordability. And if the next buyer can't qualify for the next house, the entire growth machine starts slowing down. Now we're moving to number 12, where competition between new construction and existing homes gets even more interesting. At number 12, we land in Oswego, a community that can look almost too perfect from the outside. Wide streets, large houses, newer subdivisions, parks, shopping, and family neighborhoods. For years, the selling point was simple: move farther west, get more house, and pay less than closer to Chicago. Builders saw the opportunity and kept expanding. But every growing suburb eventually faces the same question: who is the next buyer? As home prices, interest rates, property taxes, and monthly payments rise, buyers become much more selective. And that's where new construction creates a problem. Imagine buying a brand new home today, only to have another subdivision open 5 minutes away. Now your 3-year-old house is competing against a brand new one. The builder can offer a lower mortgage rate, closing costs, upgrades, and new appliances. You can't. You can only lower your price. That's the uncomfortable side of a new construction-heavy market. The same growth that made the area attractive can eventually create competition for existing homeowners. And a finished home sitting empty doesn't necessarily mean it's abandoned. The house may be complete, the landscaping finished, and everything ready, but the buyer hasn't arrived yet. Eventually, the builder has 3 choices: hold the price, offer incentives, or cut the price. And if enough builders do that at the same time, the pressure can spread into the resale market. The real question isn't whether the house will eventually sell. It's this: at what price? And we're moving closer to the top of the list. The next suburbs have even more new construction and even more competition for buyers. To understand Chicago's suburban growth story, Huntley is a place worth watching. For years, it was a relatively small community. Then large subdivisions began spreading across open land, bringing hundreds and eventually thousands of new homes. The pitch was simple: more space, newer neighborhoods, a quieter lifestyle, and prices that could be lower than closer suburbs. Builders saw the demand and kept expanding. But eventually, all that new construction becomes competition. One subdivision gets another phase. A new builder opens nearby. Townhomes appear. And suddenly, buyers have dozens of choices. That's when buyers gain leverage. They can compare floor plans, prices, mortgage incentives, closing cost assistance, and upgrades. And that matters, because builders can change the deal. Existing homeowners usually can't. Imagine buying a new home 3 years ago, then trying to sell it while a builder nearby is offering a brand new version with financing incentives. Your home may still be beautiful, but the buyer is asking one question: which one gives me the better value? That's the challenge in a new construction-heavy market. The same growth that made the area attractive can create competition for existing homeowners. And every new sale also becomes another comparable for nearby properties. If builders need incentives to close those sales, resale homes can feel the pressure. This doesn't mean the community is suddenly undesirable. The same advantages are still there: larger homes, suburban amenities, open space, and access to the Chicago region. But buyers have become more price sensitive. And when buyers have choices, the builder offering the strongest deal can have a major advantage. Now we're moving farther west, where number 10 takes this new construction story even further. At number 10, we arrive in Yorkville, one of the key communities in Chicago's westward suburban expansion. For years, it was much smaller. Then developers found plenty of land and new subdivisions started spreading across the area. New streets, new houses, new schools, new commercial development. The growth was real, but every new house needs a buyer. And today's buyers are looking beyond the sticker price. They see a $400,000 or $500,000 home, then calculate the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Suddenly, that dream home can feel much more expensive. Some buyers wait. Some choose smaller homes. Others simply decide not to buy, and that's a problem for builders. A finished house doesn't generate revenue until someone actually closes on it. Until then, the builder has money tied up in construction, financing, marketing, and inventory. That's why incentives become important. Rate specials, closing cost assistance, free upgrades, sometimes even design credits. For buyers, those offers can create real negotiating power, and the competition isn't only between builders. Nearby communities offer similar homes, similar lifestyles, and plenty of alternatives. So buyers can shop around, and when buyers have choices, sellers lose leverage. That's why a market can look busy from the outside with cranes, new roads, and model homes, while buyers are still negotiating aggressively. The growth story is real. But the bigger question is whether enough buyers can absorb the next wave of homes at today's prices. And now we're heading to number 9, where the new construction competition gets even more intense. Coming at number 9, we turn to Montgomery, a smaller community sitting in the middle of one of Illinois' most active suburban growth areas. Located along the Fox River near Aurora and Oswego, it has the roads, open land, and access to the Chicago job market that developers look for. And once one development succeeds, another usually follows. A few hundred homes become another few hundred. Then come the roads, schools, shopping, and more construction. But the housing market doesn't care how much land is available. It cares about how many buyers can actually afford the homes. Today's buyers need more than a down payment. They need enough income for the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, closing costs, and a much larger monthly payment. And when those costs rise, outer suburbs can feel the pressure. Because buyers are essentially trading distance from Chicago for affordability. But if that price advantage gets smaller, they start asking, why am I driving this far? That's when the suburban growth equation starts changing. Now, add more new construction. If builders keep opening new phases, buyers have more choices, and more choices mean sellers have less leverage. A home that doesn't sell isn't necessarily a bad home. Sometimes it's simply priced for a market that no longer exists. That's where builders have another advantage. They can adjust incentives, change financing, add upgrades, and make deals to move inventory. An individual homeowner usually can't compete that way. So even a growing community can become a much more competitive market when affordability gets tighter. The demand is still there, but the question is whether enough buyers can afford the next wave of homes. And now we reach number 8, where the story changes completely as we move into a much larger and more established Illinois city. Now we arrive at number 8. Elgin, a much larger and more established city than several communities we've covered so far. Unlike newer suburbs, it has a long history built around manufacturing, railroads, commerce, and the Fox River. Today, it has historic neighborhoods, established subdivisions, apartments, townhomes, and plenty of newer construction, and that's what makes the market interesting. Different neighborhoods can behave very differently. An older area with limited inventory may still have strong demand. But near new construction, resale homeowners face a different challenge. Builders offer brand new kitchens, appliances, warranties, modern layouts, and sometimes financing incentives. A well-maintained older home can still lose attention simply because the new one feels newer. That's how new construction can put pressure on nearby resale values. If builders offer incentives, buyers compare those deals with existing homes, and sellers may eventually have to negotiate or cut prices. But the city has an advantage: scale. A broader economy, transportation connections, established neighborhoods, and different price points make the market more diverse. Still, affordability remains the big issue. Buyers are calculating mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, commuting costs, and even the cost of renting. When ownership becomes too expensive, some simply wait. And when buyers wait, builders have to work harder with rate buy-downs, closing cost credits, and other incentives. This doesn't mean the city is collapsing. It means the market is becoming more competitive. The houses didn't change. The math did. And now we're moving to number 7, where the pressure gets even harder to ignore. At number 7, we reach Crystal Lake, a community where established neighborhoods and new construction compete side by side. Unlike some newer suburbs, this place has history: an established downtown, a lake, parks, schools, and commuter connections. That reputation is exactly what attracted developers. Instead of building in an unknown area, they could sell brand new homes inside a community buyers already knew. But there's an interesting difference between older and newer housing. Established homes have something new construction can't easily create: scarcity. You can't build another historic downtown or recreate decades-old neighborhoods overnight. But new homes have their own advantage. They're modern, clean, energy efficient, and usually come with fewer immediate repair concerns. Add builder incentives, and the competition becomes even tougher. Imagine listing a 5-year-old home for $500,000, while a builder nearby offers a brand new house with financing incentives for a similar monthly payment. The buyer may choose the new house. That puts pressure on resale sellers. They may have to lower the price, offer concessions, or simply wait. And waiting costs money through mortgages, taxes, insurance, and maintenance. If enough sellers face the same problem, one price cut can influence the next. That's how a neighborhood's pricing expectations can change. But the fundamentals here aren't necessarily weak. People still want the location, amenities, and established community. The bigger issue is that buyers have become more selective. They compare. They negotiate. And if the deal doesn't make sense, they walk away. That's very different from the pandemic-era buying frenzy. And number 6 shows what happens when the supply of homes becomes even harder to absorb. Taking the 6th spot is Carpentersville, a community where affordability and new construction are creating an interesting housing battle. Positioned along the Fox River, it has traditionally attracted buyers looking for more house without paying the higher prices found closer to Chicago. Then newer housing started expanding, and suddenly buyers had more choices: older homes, townhomes, new subdivisions, and even other nearby suburbs. That's where builders become serious competition. A new home comes with modern layouts, new appliances, a warranty, energy-efficient systems, and potentially a financing incentive. An existing homeowner may have renovated the kitchen, replaced the roof, and spent thousands improving the property. But buyers don't necessarily pay dollar for dollar for those upgrades. They compare the entire market. And if a brand new house offers a similar monthly payment, the resale home can struggle. That's why supply matters. When fewer homes are available, sellers have more power. When more homes compete for the same buyers, buyers gain leverage. And new construction can quickly increase that competition. Builders may respond with rate buy-downs, closing cost credits, free upgrades, or even price reductions. Those offers may sound like bonuses, but they can also signal that builders are working harder to move inventory. And construction activity doesn't always mean demand is strong. A development can keep building because the project was planned years earlier, even while buyers are becoming more cautious. So the real question isn't how many houses are being built. It's how many buyers can actually afford them. And that's why this community earns a spot in our top 5. Number 5 takes us deeper into the Southwest suburban growth machine we've been following. Landing at number 5th spot is Bolingbrook, where Chicago's suburban growth story becomes impossible to ignore. Located southwest of Chicago with major connections like I-55 and I-355, it became attractive to developers and families looking for space and accessibility. Over the years, neighborhoods expanded with new houses, townhomes, apartments, commercial areas, and industrial development. But as more homes were built, buyers gained more choices. A family looking at a $450,000 home can compare it with Plainfield, Romeoville, Joliet, Shorewood, and other nearby communities. That's why builder incentives matter. Instead of cutting the advertised price, builders can offer lower mortgage rates, closing cost assistance, upgrades, or credits. For buyers, that can make a major difference. But it creates a challenge for existing homeowners. Imagine your older home is listed around $450,000, while a nearby builder offers a brand new house at a similar effective cost. The buyer may simply ask, why buy the older house? The resale home may have a better location, larger lot, lower taxes, or an established neighborhood. But the new home still has a psychological advantage. That's why new construction can pressure resale values without causing an immediate crash. Sometimes it simply means longer selling times, more negotiations, concessions, and price cuts. And it shows why Illinois housing can't be judged by one statewide number. The real questions are, which city, which neighborhood, what type of home, and how much new construction is competing nearby. Those answers can completely change the picture. And now we're moving to number 4, where the outer suburban expansion becomes even more obvious. At number 4, we reach Manuka, a community that shows how Chicago's suburban expansion can reshape an area. Located southwest of Chicago near the I-55 and I-80 corridors, it offers developers something extremely valuable: land. Fields became roads, roads became subdivisions, and subdivisions became entire neighborhoods. The appeal was simple: larger homes, bigger yards, modern floor plans, and more space than buyers could often get closer to Chicago. But this growth model depends on one thing: future buyers. Developers can build hundreds of homes, but if buyers can't afford them, the equation changes quickly. That's when incentives start appearing: lower mortgage rates, closing cost assistance, upgrades, discounts. For buyers, that creates negotiating power. They can ask, what can you do on the financing? And builders have to decide whether making the deal is better than letting the house sit. That pressure also reaches nearby resale homeowners. Builders can offer financing incentives and upgrades that individual sellers simply can't match. So resale sellers may have to compete through location, larger lots, mature landscaping, or eventually price. That's the challenge of a new construction-heavy market. The same growth that created opportunity can eventually create too much competition. And the warning sign isn't just an empty house. It's when inventory keeps growing, buyers become more price sensitive, and builders increasingly rely on incentives. Because eventually, the market has to clear: more buyers or lower prices. And now we're entering the final 3, where this Illinois housing story gets much bigger. Number 3 is where the competition becomes even harder to ignore. Holding the 3rd spot is Shorewood, a smaller community sitting directly in the path of Illinois' southwest suburban growth. With Joliet nearby and easy access to I-55 and I-80, its location attracted developers and families looking for newer homes and more space. As development expanded, multiple builders entered the market. And that's where competition became important. One builder offers a new phase, another offers special financing, another offers closing cost assistance. Suddenly, buyers have choices. That's great for buyers, but tougher for nearby homeowners trying to sell. Imagine owning a 4-year-old home and listing it at what you believe is a fair price. Then a builder opens nearby with brand new finishes, a warranty, and mortgage incentives. The buyer isn't just comparing prices. They're comparing monthly payments, location, taxes, commute, and overall value. A rate buy-down can lower the monthly payment, while closing cost assistance reduces upfront expenses. An individual homeowner usually can't match all of that. That's why a slowdown in new construction doesn't always look like a crash. Sometimes it appears as longer selling times, more incentives, or sellers lowering their expectations. The community still has strong advantages: good location, newer housing, and access to the broader southwest suburban economy. But the same growth that created those advantages also created more competition. And now we're moving to number 2, where North Aurora gives us another look at the same suburban housing pressure. Just one spot away from the top is North Aurora, a community that benefited heavily from Chicago's westward suburban expansion. Located along the Fox River next to Aurora, it gave families a chance to trade distance from Chicago for more space, larger homes, yards, garages, and newer construction. Developers saw the opportunity and transformed large parcels of land into residential communities. But that growth depends on one thing: the next buyer. And today's buyers are looking beyond the home price. They're calculating interest rates, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and commuting costs. That creates a much more cautious buyer. A cautious buyer doesn't rush. They compare communities, they negotiate, they ask for incentives. And sometimes they simply wait or rent for another year. That's a problem when builders have finished homes sitting in inventory. A house can be completely finished, landscaped, and ready to move into but still have no buyer. That's when financing incentives become powerful. Imagine a resale home and a brand new home priced around the same amount. If the builder offers a lower mortgage rate, the new home could have a lower monthly payment. And buyers care about the monthly payment more than the headline price. That can force resale homeowners to compete through price. And when enough transactions happen at lower effective prices, nearby comparable values can come under pressure. But there's another important point. The Chicago suburban market isn't one single market. One buyer chooses North Aurora. Another chooses Oswego, Plainfield, or Yorkville. Another stays closer to Chicago. And another decides to rent. Every one of those decisions changes demand somewhere else. That's why number 1 matters so much, because the final location isn't just another suburb. It's where the entire Illinois new construction story becomes much bigger than one town. At number 1, we reach New Lenox, one of the key communities in Chicago's southwest suburban expansion. With access to I-80 and I-355, it attracts families looking for more space while staying connected to the Chicago job market. But more construction means more competition. New neighborhoods, larger homes, and new developments give buyers plenty of choices. And when buyers become cautious, builders have an advantage: incentives. Rate buydowns, closing cost assistance, upgrades, and special financing can make a brand new home more attractive than a nearby resale property. Imagine a 3-year-old home listed around $450,000, while a brand new house nearby costs roughly the same, but comes with thousands of dollars in incentives. The buyer may simply choose the new home. That's where existing homeowners feel the pressure. They may have to negotiate, offer concessions, or reduce their price. This doesn't necessarily mean a housing crash. It can show up as longer selling times, more negotiations, and lower effective prices. The community still has strong advantages: good transportation, established neighborhoods, and proximity to Chicago. But the bigger question is affordability. Because when buyers have multiple communities to choose from, they gain leverage. And in 2026, that's becoming one of the biggest stories in Illinois real estate. So after looking at these 15 Illinois suburbs, what's the real takeaway? This isn't necessarily a statewide housing crash. It's a market that's becoming more competitive, and buyers are finally getting some leverage. Builders are offering incentives, sellers are negotiating, and buyers have more options than they had before. So if you're buying in Illinois, would you choose a brand new home with builder incentives, or an older home at a lower price? Let me know your city and your choice in the comments. And if you found this breakdown useful, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we're going to keep tracking where the housing market is heading next.